Hello and welcome back. Well, another month has come and gone, but honestly, in 2020, what even are months at this point? Maybe we'll just call them disappointments. Hey, when's your next dentist appointment? Well, I was gonna go this disappointment, but now I think I'm gonna go next disappointment, so. Jokes aside, I thought it would be fun to take you through every single novel that I read in July. Let's get started. I started off July with Love Creekwood by Becky Albertalli. You guys know that I love the Simon-verse. I was really excited for this book. And even though it was like super short, it gave me a lot of what I was looking for. It was super cute, had a lot of resolution, but it still managed to have some conflict. It still managed to have some uncertainty. And I know Becky keeps saying she's not gonna write anymore in this universe, but it definitely leaves it open for more. So please, Becky, please, Becky, please. Overall, if you're a Simon-verse fan, I absolutely recommend this book. I did give it a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. I would not recommend this as a standalone. If you read this and not have read any of the other books, you'll be like, what is happening here? I do recommend reading all of the Simon-verse books before you read this because it's essentially an extended epilogue. I followed that up with On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness by Andrew Peterson. Now I'm gonna be really honest. I bought this book for the cover. It's so pretty. Overall, I think the world and the writing style are really cool. He definitely writes as if he's writing a history book almost, but for kids, and it's just really fun and really immerses you in the world. As far as the story goes though, I did find it to be pretty slow. This book, even though it's not that long, did feel like kind of a slog to get through. Overall, when you compare this to something like Percy Jackson, like you read the first Percy Jackson book, there's a whole adventure to be had there, right? This, like, it was very minute as far as the adventure went. I felt like it was a lot more of world building, which is fun and all, but I wanted a little bit more from the story. I followed that up with a Brandon Sanderson book I actually had never read, which was Elantris. This has been sitting on my shelf for maybe 2 years, and I finally read it. This is a standalone Brandon Sanderson fantasy novel, so if you're looking for a good standalone book that's fantasy, or you just want to give Brandon Sanderson a try without jumping into a whole fantasy series, you could try this one out. I did think it was really great. It definitely follows all the best things about Brandon Sanderson. It's got lots of high fantasy. It's got lots of great characters. It has a really interesting world, a really interesting magic system, a lot of intrigue. I do like that he follows both characters that are good and characters that are bad. So you really get to see like a wide berth of this world. Supposedly he's gonna be writing another book in this world, and I certainly hope he does because I definitely feel like there's so much more he could explore. I gave this a 5 out of 5, so you should probably, you know, call your people and have them call their people to go to the bookstore. What? Okay, so I followed that up with the third book in the Shadowhunters series, City of Glass. Now, I really liked City of Bones. I thought City of Ashes was kind of a mixed bag. I thought the first half of the book, there was really nothing happening, and the second half of the book was really good. Luckily, this book has a lot of plot and a lot of character development and a lot of character moments. And I think overall, it kind of finishes out the first Mortal Instruments trilogy really solidly. And I think the explanations and the big twists in this book made sense, which is good because I think in certain regards, when you have whole chapters that have to explain a twist, sometimes that can be a little like nonsensical. I think this book pulled it off pretty well. So far of the Mortal Instruments books, of which I've only read the first 3, this was my favorite. So I think this is a series that only gets better, which is great. Next up, I read Windswept by Kaitlin Bellamy. Now, Kaitlin Bellamy is an indie author. I actually discovered her through TikTok because she does TikTok videos as well, and I really wanted to give her book a try, and it did not disappoint. This book reminds me a lot of things like Name of the Wind, and I say that because it's much more of a character-centered story that really deals on his emerging powers as opposed to throwing him right into danger. Unlike Dark Sea of Darkness, though, I felt like the world and the world building and the character building are intriguing enough that it kept the story feeling like it was going at a good pace. Another TikTok author, but one you're more likely to have heard of, is Hank Green. I decided to pick up An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. Now, I know the sequel to this just came out, but I had never read the first one, so it was time to check it out. This is a book about a young woman who basically stumbles upon a giant robot in the middle of New York City, and it turns out that there's a bigger mystery behind it. She gets kind of forced into this social media fame that she wasn't expecting. And while the book does have those sci-fi elements, really the focus of the story is how she deals with her relationships and her friendships when suddenly forced into the public eye. This book is very funny, it's very quirky, and it's very well written, and it's super intriguing. And I won't spoil it for you, but I will say there is a doozy of a cliffhanger at the end of this book, so I'm really excited to read the second book. I gave this 5 out of 5. I think you should definitely check it out. It's really fun and really good, and it deserves your attention. If you follow me on TikTok or even here, you'll know I love Sarah J. Maas. So this month I finally read A Court of Wings and Ruin by her, third book in the ACOTAR trilogy, and what can I say? It was a fantastically fun book. I really enjoyed the read. Thought it was super fun. I thought it really like cleared up everything. I think every single character gets a really great moment to shine. Even the worst of them get really great character moments. My only complaint about the book, and even though I still think the book is fantastic and a great way to end the trilogy. My only real complaint is that the characters, especially the main characters, all really seem to have a lot of heavy plot armor. I don't expect to go into a huge epic battle and have it honestly end up being really low stakes for the main characters. That to me is a little bit disappointing, but everything else is really fantastic, and I'm super excited for where this series is going. Special thanks to Entangled Teen Publishing for sending me an early copy of Dating Makes Perfect. This is a book about a young Thai woman who's in high school. Her sisters and her are not allowed to date in high school, but basically what happens is her sisters go to college, they're not dating, their mom gets panicky because she's like, you're supposed to go off to college and find a husband and you don't even know how to date. So she decides to start setting her daughter, who's still in high school, up on practice dates. But she sets her up on practice dates with this boy that she hates. I think it's great to have another voice in the young adult space. And I think that it's great to see that so much of Thai culture and just Thai at-home, everyday living is put into this book because it really gives that voice and it really gives young Thai men and women something to read that's super relatable. Highly recommend. It comes out in August. Definitely check it out. Dating Makes Perfect. Arguably my favorite book that I read in July was The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. So this is basically your action-packed Marvel superhero movie, except the main character is a young gay teenager without any powers. He is so obsessed with the superheroes in his town that he writes fan fiction about them. He's a total nerd. He's also got ADHD, and he's a little bit oblivious and socially awkward. In other words, he's incredibly relatable. Something I love about TJ Klune is that he's incredibly funny. There's so many moments in this book that actually made me laugh out loud, but there's also a lot of heartwarming moments. I think it's really great. His relationship with his dad is amazing because they do have drama between them, but it's not about him being gay. Like, it's never about the dad not accepting him for who he is. Like, his dad's really accepting, but, you know, they have drama between them because they're a teenager and a father, and that just is how it goes. I really loved this book. Like I just said, I think this was my favorite thing that I read in July, so I highly recommend you check it out for sure. The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. And last but not least, my final read of July was Lovecraft Country, which was by Matt Ruff. Now, this is getting made into an HBO series, so I definitely wanted to check it out. Essentially, this is a story about H.P. Lovecraft lore, but it's set in the 1950s during Jim Crow laws, and it deals with an African-American family in several short stories as they sort of get pulled into this H.P. Lovecraft-esque world. The interesting thing is that even though there is ultimately a little bit of a through line here, the book is presented as like several almost like short stories or novellas about different members of the family. The unfortunate thing about a book like this is that when you have several different short stories, I feel like I no longer judge the book as its whole. I start to judge each story, which means that some stories are really super interesting, have really interesting plots, while others end up being a little flat or even a little bit boring. This is a book that I don't think I've read anything quite like it, but it is not always the best. Like, it's sometimes really good and sometimes just kind of meh. So keep that in mind if you're gonna read it. Guys, that is everything I read in July. Let me know if you've read any of these books in the comments, and also let me know if you plan to read anything awesome in August that I should be checking out. Guys, thank you so much for watching and going through this little July memory lane with me. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.